Hey marketers, feeling like your top of funnel is collapsing? Feeling like you're under pressure to create more and better content than ever before? Feeling like your budget got slashed? We totally know that feeling. But we have something better for you. That feeling when you create a digital experience that knows when to say Guten Tag and when to say Konnichiwa. That feeling when one tiny tweak makes your CTR explode. That feeling when you push content live, in-store, in-app, in-person, in-flight, instantly. That's timely, perfectly personalized content at scale. That's finding your flow. That's feeling so contentful.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Contentful Chief Executive Officer, Karthik Rao.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Contentful Innovation Showcase. I'm delighted to see you all and excited to kick off today's sessions. First, I'd like to thank all of you, our Contentful community, for all of your support throughout the years. You've helped us grow from a pioneer in the content management space into a leader in the world of modern digital experiences. I'm particularly proud of the scale of our community. Today, we have more than 50,000 global websites powered by Contentful, more than 300,000 active users of our platform around the world, and more than 20,000 applications that have been built on the Contentful application framework. We truly appreciate all of your support and all of your contributions. But today is about the future. So let's get started by discussing some of the great challenges facing today's marketing organizations. Now, I've worked with some exceptional marketing professionals throughout my 30-year career. When I think about what differentiates the best of the best from those who are just really good, a few words come to mind: creativity, curiosity, empathy. These are all deeply human traits, but it's easy to lose focus of these important skills in the everyday grind of marketing. As pressure builds on marketing teams to do more with less and keep their heads above water, we risk losing what makes marketing authentic and truly impactful. And now, with the emergence of AI, there's a real danger of over-focusing on throughput and mechanical output over the things that really make a difference in the creative aspects of marketing. In other words, content is losing its humanity, its authenticity. We see this every day in a world of increasing mistrust. At Contentful, we call this phenomenon the Great Content Collapse. There are three fundamental elements to the Great Content Collapse. The first is a collapse in the operating model. Every team will be expected to do substantially more with less resources and rethink not just its tooling, but its underlying organizational strategy. The second is a collapse in the quality of content in human connections. This is driven by the increasing drumbeat of noise in our public forums. The third is a collapse of the top of the funnel. Some might say a collapse of the entire funnel, due to the changing nature of how consumers are getting their information. Let's double-click on each of these for a moment. Let's start with the collapse of the operating model. Look, resource constraints are nothing new for marketing organizations. You've all been dealing with this for decades. Marketing budgets have dropped nearly 20% in the last couple of years alone. But this latest wave of cuts is very different from the previous ones. Instead of dialing back on programs, 39% of marketing leaders are looking at trimming labor and agency spend. As budgets shrink, and especially as headcount shrinks, the pressure to automate increases. This presents the very real risk that AI becomes a shortcut instead of a real partner. Now, AI presents a massive opportunity to do more with less, to increase the quality of content along with velocity, but only if done right. Now let's move on to the second aspect of the Great Content Collapse, the collapse of connections. Creating content that rises above the noise has always been difficult, but it's never been more difficult than it is today. Attention spans are short, there are competing interests everywhere, and not only does your content have to be great, it has to be relevant to the state of mind of your audience at the moment they see it. And let's be real, there's a lot of bad content out there. I'm talking about generic, undifferentiated content. Best case scenario, it's perceived as noise. Worst case scenario, it can have a lasting negative impact on your brand. There are many contributors to this problem. Digital channels have made distribution cheap and easy. It's lowered the bar for publishing content, and it's made it far easier to push out bad content. It also takes way too much time and involves way too many teams to craft tailored experiences. So we default then to the generic content because it's the least common denominator. Instrumenting your experiences to get the data that you care about, not just the data that's easy, is also very difficult and involves so many teams. And as a consequence, most marketers don't really know which aspects of their content are driving great performance, neutral performance, or negative performance. And most importantly, marketers are spending so much of their time on the everyday marketing toil that they just don't have the time or creative energy to focus on the things that are really going to differentiate their brands. Lastly, let's talk about the collapse at the top of the funnel. Nearly every marketing leader that I've talked to since my time here at Contentful has told me the same story. Organic traffic to their sites has been plummeting. The new reality is that AI-driven search is transforming how information is found. SEO has given way to GEO, generative engine optimization. And generative engines are now the new gatekeepers to audience awareness, determining which brands break through and which brands are left out of the conversation. As an example, let's just look at a search result on Google. The AI overview is taking the entire screen real estate. Organic results are way below the fold. What really matters is getting cited as a source in the AI result. But here's a very important point. AI doesn't reward volume or even regular output. It rewards originality, it rewards depth, and it awards true authority. So this is a great opportunity for marketers to really leverage this to rise above the noise. Undifferentiated content not only erodes your audience connection, but the very mechanism that's now gatekeeping top-of-funnel awareness will ignore you as well. All of these changes, along with the evolving technology landscape, are driving what we believe to be a significant organizational shift. A new generation of marketers is taking shape. The next generation is going to look very different from previous generations. They will be full stack, meaning they'll combine the soft skills of marketing, curiosity, empathy, intuition, with the hard skills of a technical professional, AI fluency, data literacy, and an analytical mindset. In order for that to happen, marketers can't get stuck in the drudgery of admin tasks and marketing toil. They need to leverage AI throughout their roles, throughout their work, not to automate the creative side of their job, but to multiply their output by automating all of the minutiae. We call this combination evidence-based creativity. It's the combination of technical and business, creative and analytical proficiencies. Evidence-based creativity becomes a critical skill required out of every marketing team. It also drives new requirements for your underlying technology platforms. We take our role in this evolution very seriously. As we continue to develop our product portfolio, we focused our team on 3 guiding principles. First, we aim to be the best experience platform for both humans and agents. Many of you have heard us describe Contentful as being loved by both developers and marketers. Well, as we enter the age of AI, it's really critical for an experience platform to be loved by agents as well. It has to have the right primitives, it has to have the right tools, it has to have the right access to data to support these AI workloads. It also needs to support orders of magnitude more scale than you're used to seeing today, more composability, and more extensibility. Second, we aim to automate and eliminate marketing toil. Even the best-in-class experience platforms today require multiple teams, multiple handoffs between marketing, development, design, between internal teams and external agencies. We aim to build on our infinitely extensible platform to deliver the agents that can do this work for you, so you can focus on the strategic work that truly differentiates your brands. Lastly, we aim to do all of this in a way that fully supports the full-stack marketer. That means democratizing the kind of tasks that historically have required specialized teams. You shouldn't have to engage a specialist team to run an experiment, just as an example. You can see these guiding principles at work in how we've evolved our product portfolio at Contentful. We introduced Contentful Studio last year to radically simplify the experience creation process for non-technical users. We continue to make major investments in our ecosystem and application framework to support custom development by both developers, humans, and agents. And today you'll hear more about the evolution of our AI actions framework to support a broader set of automation around day-to-day marketing operations. And lastly, we're democratizing the optimization workflows of the content lifecycle. First with experimentation and personalization, and later today you'll hear about how we're adding to those capabilities with analytics and optimization. I'm particularly proud of how the majority of our personalization customers were never doing personalization before buying Contentful. It's the epitome of a full-stack marketer solution, where we empowered a skilled marketer to run experiments and personalize as part of their day-to-day workflows, not relying on a specialist team to come and get involved in every single experiment or workflow that they needed to run. All of this is to say that we will keep doing what we do best so you can keep doing what you do best. I'm excited for you all to hear more about these opportunities today and to hear about some of our latest innovations. We've broken up our showcase into three parts so we can dive into each aspect of the great content collapse in more detail. We'll start with a conversation about how to liberate your marketers from the day-to-day marketing toil that's taking up so much of their precious time. Next, we'll deep dive into how to bring more evidence-based marketing, evidence-based creativity into your organization to drive higher quality content. And lastly, we'll cover our own case study of how Contentful has been managing the massive paradigm shift from SEO to GEO. And with no further ado, I'd like to invite on stage Alex Wood, our Senior Director of Product Management.
Thank you, Karthik. I'm delighted to be here today to talk to you about how you can liberate your marketers, empower them to be the full-stack marketers that you just heard about, and how Contentful can help you get there. When I ask marketing teams what they love about their roles, they tell me they're hired to innovate, they're hired to be bold, they're hired to inspire. They craft a vision and they shape the perception of the market. And for the more financially inclined amongst us, they drive growth. A marketer's role should be to develop the breakthrough ideas that move the business forwards. But that's really just the tip of the iceberg. In reality, a large proportion of the day-to-day activities of marketers are endless coordination, checklists, reviews, making sure I've used the latest SEO guidelines, policing brand voice, or coordinating with developers. Marketers are hired for the big ideas, but they spend most of their day managing execution. At Contentful, we believe that marketers should focus most of their efforts on the creative and strategic work. We believe marketers are at their best when they're building authentic human connections with their customers and driving growth with bold, innovative campaigns. I'm excited to be able to share with you how Contentful can help empower your marketers to get there and how AI is going to help us do even more for them. In spring, we launched AI Actions, our framework for embedding generative AI in the content lifecycle, from creation to adaptation to publishing. AI Actions comes with a library of templates covering tasks like translation or adding alt text to images or SEO metadata, many more as well, all with the context from within your CMS. The actions are also highly configurable, so if you have a very specific workflow, you can tailor something to meet your exact needs. We already have customers achieving impressive results with these. Translation is a great example. Biogen, a multinational biotechnology company, is saving tens of thousands a year with AI actions. And on top of that, they're doing this in a highly regulated industry by combining AI with human-in-the-loop review. DocuSign is another example, who've translated over 7,000 pages into 52 languages. And whilst those results are impressive, I'm very pleased to be able to show you what's coming next to expand that value even further. Contentful is proud to announce content semantics, AI suggestions, and bulk AI actions. With content semantics, your CMS doesn't just store your content, but it stores your content's meaning. This helps you unlock things like duplicate detection or recommending similar content that you might want to reference on a new article. It means that AI can talk with the rest of your content in mind, driving consistency and relevancy. Next, AI suggestions. Think of these as quality guardrails. They will check things like tone of voice, spelling and grammar, adherence to brand guidelines, readability. And it not only checks and makes suggestions, but it gives you the rationale for why it has made those suggestions to help you decide on whether or not to accept it. And finally, you'll be able to run AI actions in bulk. This enables you to scale your impact dramatically and deliver results for your business significantly faster. So having all these capabilities are nice, but our customers often ask us, how do we think about adopting them? Well, when I speak to customers, I see 4 stages of AI adoption. The first stage of AI adoption is manual triggers. So think of this as using AI to help you in one of your day-to-day tasks. A great example could be interviewing an SME about a topic and using AI to help you take a transcript of that interview and turn it into a blog outline. Directly in the human workflow, very human-controlled. The next stage of AI automation is where you start to let AI take on individual tasks in an otherwise human workflow. We call this human-in-the-loop workflows. Imagine once you've finished creating an entry in English, you automatically translate it with AI into multiple local languages and let the local teams take it from there. Still very much human in control. Most of our customers are at these 2 phases, and that's okay. We're all on this journey together. But the more advanced customers are starting to think about this next phase, which is intelligent automations. And this is where you will build slightly more complicated, but still predefined workflows, rules-based, trigger-based, to automate some of the repetitive tasks that take time away from marketers focusing on the creative and strategic aspects. A really good example here would be every time an entry is updated, automatically regenerating SEO metadata, and then pinging the SEO team on Slack to notify them that something has changed. The final phase of this is autonomous agents. And this is where AI starts to take initiative and learn and adapt. Now, this may sound scary, and yeah, the idea of AI running amok amongst your whole website is indeed quite scary, but it doesn't need to be. Think about having an automatic agent that goes around and looks at all of your content performance and proactively recommends which pieces of content you might want to update, or even what you might change on them to improve performance. No matter where you are on this AI adoption journey, Contentful is here to help. With AI actions helping support manual workflows as well as the automated human-in-the-loop workflows, our new automations capability, which I'll talk about in just a moment, and finally, MCP. Now, MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. Pretty dry sounding, right? Think of this as the universal adapter for AI. Before this, if you wanted AI to interact with any tool, your development teams needed to build lots of custom integrations to make them even understand the tool. With MCP, that is virtually plug and play. What that means for you as marketers is that your dev teams can unlock a world of creative use cases way more easily and way more rapidly than ever before. Imagine if your company chatbot knew about all of the content that you have in Contentful. We'll hear more about this shortly from one of our customers. But before that, I'm pleased to announce our new capability, automations. We showed earlier the many tasks that take you away from doing the creative and strategic work that you were hired to do. This all changes with Contentful's new automations capability. Automations provides a drag-and-drop interface that marketers can use to automate these repetitive tasks with all of the triggers, conditions, actions that you expect. And importantly, it doesn't just work on stuff inside Contentful. It connects via our ecosystem to partners. Imagine if Project status reports were automatically updated when you finished drafting content, and the project lead got notified on Slack. Or if the system took care of all of the drudgery of adding alt text and making sure that you have SEO metadata every time before you publish so that you don't have to. With our automations capability, this is now a reality for our customers. But don't take my word for it. Seeing is believing. And I'm delighted to welcome to the stage Anne and Taylor from our marketing team to show you how these capabilities empower them on a daily basis.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anne Kubacki, and I lead content marketing here at Contentful, which these days means my team is wearing lots of hats. So, really embracing that full stack marketer life that Karthik talked about earlier. This is my colleague, Taylor. He's going to help me show you some of these hats we have to wear all the time. So, for example, just this morning, Taylor and I had a great meeting with an expert in AI and finance. It was a good conversation, right?
It was awesome. We should find something to do about this.
Like a blog?
I
think a blog. So let's show you how in minutes we can take it from great conversation to great blog posts with Contentful. Now, if you're used to creating content in Contentful, you're going to go ahead and tee up a blog post just our typical way, except this time we're going to have some AI superpowers, which really helps make it faster and easier to launch brand new content. Now, Contentful's AI Actions, which is our embedded feature that really supports that content lifecycle, this is a perfect starting point. So we recorded that meeting earlier, right?
You got it.
Okay, cool. So go ahead and copy and paste that raw text right into Contentful. When we submit, it's going to run all that text through a prompt that I've specifically created for this type of task. So it's really going to instruct that AI on exactly what we think a great blog post looks like. Got our draft going? Mm-hmm. Cool. So we know that anything created by AI, though, must be thoroughly reviewed and refined. So this is a great starting point for AI suggestions. AI suggestions are just like AI actions, except as the name suggests, it's helping us think about ways to improve the quality of our existing content. So Taylor, why don't we go ahead and run one of these AI suggestions? I want to check those brand guidelines. How's it looking?
We've got some abbreviations that it's found, some contractions, and some M dashes.
Okay.
We can't have that.
Nah, we can't have that. Now, we could apply this one by one, but since it's all looking pretty accurate, let's go ahead and bulk apply. Save us some time, right? So as you can see, AI suggestions is really keeping Taylor and I in control of what that final output looks like. But what I love is it's also keeping a record of all the changes we make over time, which for us, that's great. Sometimes we change our minds and want to revert back to an earlier version. So I love having that. But today, it's looking pretty good, so let's keep that moving. Now, blog post is far from complete, but luckily our ops team has set us up with a workflow. And the workflows really just help us streamline that often complex content creation process. So for us, we actually love to use workflows to help with those final checks and balances, right? Do we have the right form and the right CTA? But today our workflow is literally going to help us finish this blog post. But first, Taylor, do you see that lightning bolt?
Yeah, right here.
Okay, so that means that this is connected to an automation. So I want to pause quickly and show folks what's under the hood there. So here you see our brand new visual builder for automations. Now, automations really help reduce that time and effort that goes into that very critical, but very tedious, repetitive, arguably boring stuff that can really weigh us down. So here's where we can set up a series of actions to automatically complete, either in Contentful or in third-party apps. So for us, we love to get a notification in Slack as our workflow progresses, but way more than Slack. You can think of it as if it's in our marketplace, you can automate it. Now, this automation is set up to scan our blog post. It's going to find those empty fields, and it'll generate new content for us. And by the way, these automations are really flexible. We can add, edit steps along the way as our needs change. With a quick configuration, Taylor, I think we should be ready to go. Cool. Let's head back to the blog post. So now that we know exactly what to expect with this automation, I think we can go for it. Now the automation should be scanning our blog post. It's going to generate new content. So it'll start with the title. Then it will move us into our intro text. And then it's going to move into the SEO description, which, So important in the age of GEO. Finally, it's going to evaluate all the images we have embedded in this blog post, and it will create alt text, which again, the LLMs will love. And just like that, a Slack notification already went to our team to have someone weigh in because we know that nothing's leaving our shop without critical human approval. Also, I'm a rules follower, so I love that we have rules in place that make sure nothing's going to get published until that very critical step is checked off. So Taylor, I want to see how this is coming together. Maybe we can head to live preview. How's it looking?
It looks good. The image is formatted right. The text looks great. I think it's ready to go.
Okay, approved. So there we go. We've gone from great conversation to great blog post really quickly. But it's time to put on our next hat. So now we need to go support our roadshow across Europe. And this was going great until our fearless marketing leader decided, let's add one more stop in Rome. We love those last minute changes, right? But Contentful truly does make it pretty easy to stay nimble and move quickly. Now, Taylor, thank you. You've already created that event landing page, but I think this deserves a bigger moment on the homepage of our website. So we have a number of stops, but it's really critical that we make sure that each of these experiences land at the right time, right audience, right language. No pressure. But I think we need to move really quickly on this so we can have things primed in advance. So let's go ahead and open our homepage to get started. Now, our team is always tinkering with optimizations on the homepage. So I need to remind myself, like, what does it actually look like right now? So here in live preview, I'm able to see the current version of our homepage. And with our new timeline feature, we're able to actually plan, preview, and schedule multiple future versions of this content. So as you can see, we've already sorted that for London and Berlin. But Taylor, now we need to go ahead and create the release for Rome. So let's give it a name. Let's tell it when we want it to go live. Go ahead and create that. Awesome. Well, now we need to start editing the actual content for the homepage. And specifically, I think we should update the hero section. So to start, let's go ahead and remove what's there now. We'll make space for that new content. And here is where reusable content makes this so easy, right? Because we've already created our landing page for this, we have plenty of modules to choose from. So Taylor, why don't we pick the one that feels best for our homepage? Great. So the homepage release is ready, but I've noticed something. It's all in English, and we know better than that. When we serve local language content, our conversion rates tend to skyrocket. So the good news is Contentful makes this pretty easy. So here we can see all the content that the teams created to support our Rome event across the whole website. And instead of translating this one by one, Contentful will help me do it in bulk. So Taylor, for all these content components, let's go ahead and run that AI action to translate the copy. So we'll select our language, Italian, of course. We'll tell it what words we don't want to translate, so our brand name. And we can even choose the tone that makes sense. So our Italian colleagues have recommended casual. Let's go with that. With just a few more clicks, this should be ready to review. So now AI Actions is generating new content for all those localized language. And this process, I know you marketers feel me, this usually would take days, if not weeks, and a significant translation budget. But already we're able to start reviewing. Contentful AI is really keeping us in control of what we want to approve in tonight. But I think for this title, that's looking great. So let's go ahead and accept that. And it's actually going to prompt us to review each line. We totally could do this, but it's a bulk actions demo. So let's go ahead and bulk accept all these changes, get those translations going to all that copy. Done. Literally 20 content entries translated to Italian in minutes. But lastly, I would love to see how this is shaping up on the homepage. So let's go check that out. And here we can see what the Rome event will look like. You can see it looks great. We can toggle to Italian and see that, yes, it's successfully translated. And I love this side-by-side view where I can see this Rome event release next to all the other versions of my homepage, both our standard and all these roadshow stops. Now, our team, we love this extra layer of quality control because it's really scary to hit publish on your homepage. So we want to see exactly what our customers are experiencing. Pretty cool, right? Contentful has just helped us with two very different scenarios where we're wearing lots of hats at helping get us out of the weeds and really up-level the impact that we're able to have on this business. Alex, back over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. What a fantastic demo, hey? So what you just saw was how Anne was able to scale her impact. She was more efficient by using Automation Builder to automate repetitive tasks. They went from an interesting conversation to a blog post live in minutes with our AI, and they were able to schedule multiple campaign releases and easily, intuitively preview them with our timelines capability. And now I'm delighted to invite to the stage one of our customers who's already seeing tremendous productivity gains and business results with using Contentful. So please welcome Leah to the stage. Firstly, thank you very much for being here with us today.
My pleasure.
It's always a delight to talk to customers at these events. First, maybe you could give me a little bit of introduction to your role at ZoomInfo and what you do for context.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a product manager on sort of the web team at ZoomInfo. I'm one of the PMs who our marketing stakeholders come to, and I just try to make them better. So we're trying to make money from our website by getting leads in, and I'm trying to just empower the marketing stakeholders who look to me for new tools and new platforms and a new web experience. And I work alongside other PM colleagues and software engineers and designers to just make everyone better at what they do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think thinking back to what you've heard today about the collapse of the operating model and the pressure to do more with less for marketing teams, I wondered if maybe you could comment on how you're handling, well, firstly, are you experiencing, and then how are you handling this pressure to do more with less at ZoomInfo?
Yeah, doing more with less is one of those evergreen challenges across the board, everywhere in the tech and marketing space. And you're absolutely right. ZoomInfo is no different. We have world-class talent, and so we needed to bring in world-class tools. And one of the things that we recognized really quickly is that everyone had to become, I love this idea of the full stack marketer. So we have paid media teams who they used to maybe spin up tickets to give to my team to develop new pages. But now we're training them and they're spinning up pages on their own, or even other content teams like our demand gen. They're doing all sorts of webinars and everything, spinning up more and more webinars and pages on their own. And that's before even getting into the content creation team that runs our blog, now doing way more with the tools we've given them. So like everyone has tons more hats on for sure.
Yeah, that really sounds like something that we hear in a lot of our customers. How do you empower people not to be bottlenecked and dependent on other teams, but them to be able to self-serve so much themselves? And it sounds like you're no different.
Yeah.
You've obviously been making a change to the way that your business runs by introducing Contentful and empowering these teams to do that. What are some of the business results you've seen from doing that?
So the most impactful business results that I can think of right now are really to do with the not just quantity, but quality of users who we've been able to join their conversations. Let me be specific about what I mean is we've heard a lot about GEO and needing to be where people are looking for things. And nowadays, the conversations are happening maybe not even on our website. And so one of the things that we've had a lot of success with is creating pages to join conversations that our users are having with chatbots. So if someone is Googling information on what's the best GTM solution? Well, ZoomInfo is the best GTM product on the market, and we want to be a part of those conversations. And it's really important for us to spin up content that authentically speaks to our positioning. And we've had a lot of success in getting to be a part of those AI-based conversations that we hadn't been before. And then you also throw in the success that we've had with spinning up more and more sort of what we call warm opportunities. So our webinars and our ebooks and everything, all of these things powered by Contentful, and those teams were able to just go in there and spin up the pages, spin up the events, and do all the work themselves. And we are seeing multiplicative effects, the real dollars in actual users coming through and getting worked through the funnel. So it's been lovely.
That's really impressive. What I really like about that story is it's not just about doing more with less, but you're also achieving better outcomes by doing that. You're able to do the operational efficiency internally, but you're also able to respond to these changing trends of how people are searching for content.
Yeah,
and
it's so important, right?
responding fast to that is so impressive.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about how AI is helping this challenge and helping marketers be able to do more.
Yep.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you're using AI internally.
Oh, AI, yeah. It's been really exciting, really, really great. I say this as someone who has always loved technology. It's why I love working in this field. And how we're using AI across ZoomInfo is really, really varied. I think at the heart of how a lot of my marketing stakeholders and our marketers are using AI right now is our engineering teams have built this really lovely like internal company chatbot that connects out to everything. So it's connecting to CRM, it's connecting to the service that we use to for our video calls for like transcripts and everything like that. And so what marketers are able to go in there and do is chat about sort of market positioning. So they can spin up white papers or ebooks about sort of emerging areas that we have customers asking questions about so that we can then immediately become part of these conversations. And so we have our marketers right now using this chatbot to connect to all of these other bits of our business that we have, because we have quite a lot of data on customers as well. And so they're just having these conversations with the chatbot internally, which is great. And that's before even getting into the way that my teams, product and engineering, are using AI, which is I'm doing a lot of sort of coding stuff that I didn't get to do before. And my marketers are seeing the benefits of that because I'm able to make cool stuff for them without even needing my engineers. Oh. And then what I'm loving a lot is Contentful's MCP. It's really allowed me to do a lot of very cool stuff that I wasn't able to do before. So it's a thrilling time to be in tech.
Cool. I really love the fact that you're sitting on as a business so many of these pockets of data and insight from your customers and conversations in the market, and empowering marketers to be able to access all of that without needing to call 10 different teams and get the specialists to help them is just like a really incredible thing.
Oh, absolutely.
You touched on at the end there MCP, the universal adapter for AI. And I always find this very hard to explain to non-technical folks why this matters, but I think you're in an ideal position to help. So like, what are you trying to do for your marketers with it, and how do you explain the value of it to them?
Yeah, so you're totally right. We are entering the nerd zone, of which I am happy to be the queen. So when I talk to my marketing stakeholders about MCPs, every technology has an MCP these days, and so having to explain what they are and like what they do, really, I think universal adapter is really the best way to describe it, in that it allows you a direct connection into like an AI-based universe for that particular product. So the Contentful MCP has really allowed me to understand all of our content and like do all sorts of various explorations into building apps that'll really help our marketers. So a concrete example of the sort of place that we're going to, and this is one of these things, if you asked me 2 years ago when I was first really exploring AI, it would have sounded like science fiction. But one of the places our engineering team and I are sort of moving to is the MCP allows us to think in this direction of, okay, we know all of our content. All of our content is there in Contentful, so the MCP can understand it. And so what if we engineer something where a marketer can go into, like they're talking to ChatGPT, but it's something like an app that we build, and they can say, oh, the keyword for my new paid media landing page, I'm running a new ad group, and it's going to be about this particular thing. So they can type it in like they're talking to ChatGPT, and it'll spin up maybe an entire page that then they can then review. And of course, we have all these automations, so it'll connect into Slack and everything. And all of that right at their fingertips. And that's the sort of thing that this universal adapter, so to speak, allows you to do. And that's incredible. I can't believe that we're talking about that, like in a real sense. It's wonderful.
Yeah, your comment about science fiction is spot on. If you
Yeah.
pitched me this idea 2 years ago,
Yeah.
I would have also thought it was science
Yeah.
fiction. It's just telling how fast the pace of this market is moving.
For sure.
I think we've got time for one final question. I'm really interested to understand what this means for ZoomInfo's customers.
Yeah.
Having all of these tools internally and doing all this stuff, what does that mean for their experience on ZoomInfo's digital properties?
Yeah, one of the things that I think has struck me the most about some conversations that I've heard up here today has really been about authenticity. And that mirrors a lot of conversations that we've had within ZoomInfo's web experience as well, which is that we have all of these things that I think of, if you think of marketing being both an art and a science, we have all of these wonderful science things. I think about how personalization is really a thing that I'm like very excited about, which is like imagine leveraging the personalization tools that we have through Contentful to where a customer, an enterprise customer from a certain vertical has a completely different web experience because we know everything about them. We're using our own ZoomInfo data. We're using the personalization data as well. And we're changing headlines, we're changing CTA copy, we're changing images. That's really the science part, right? Is leveraging that data that we have and like what we know about people to change their web experience. But then I'm also really compelled by the art part because what we have the tools now to do with something like Contentful Studio and leveraging these AI solutions that we have sort of hand in hand is we have world-class designers. And we want to be able to let users on our website experience the designs within the confines of the system that we've created to just have a lovely web experience that feels very human. Because as I think I heard earlier, like it's so trivially easy in this AI era to make something, to just make something. But like the human touch is so important. And so mixing that art and science masterfully is something that I think everyone, marketers, product management, software engineers, anyone who touches a website or anything human these days really needs to be aware. And so that's what I want users coming to ZoomInfo, our potential customers, to know is we're mixing those and we're using all the best tools to do it.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So your customers can expect, more tailored, personalized, relevant content, but at the same time, by freeing your marketers from sort of the drudgery that's been talked about, they can focus on that human touch. And that's a really impactful story for your consumers. It's not just about removing costs, it's improving the experience to your end customer.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's all we have time for, but thank you very much again for coming and being with us today. It's always a delight to talk to customers. So thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Gong, and I'm the Vice President of Product Marketing here at Contentful. Now, earlier today, Karthik was talking about the second pillar of the Great Content Collapse, which is the collapse of connection with our customers through the generic and undifferentiated content that is flooding the market, really making it so much harder for customers to really care about the content that we're putting out there. Now, why do we create content in the first place? Well, because content is the center of how we really reach our customers and connect with them on a one-to-one, personalized basis. And it can help us do things like create better brand awareness, drive customer engagement if we give them the right offers or content or information. It can also help create those signals that every marketer needs for lead generation. And lastly, results in revenue. Revenue which sustains and helps us grow our businesses. So it's a critical part of the marketing life cycle, yet a part that also marketers struggle with understanding. Oftentimes, the content life cycle looks like this. We have an idea, we create the content, we publish it, and then we measure it. And then typically the process stops there. We see how it performs, and then we move on to the next piece of content, to the next campaign. We are stretched so thin. Now, every time we do this, we risk losing insights, a chance to connect with our customers, and potentially even revenue. Now, this is a huge challenge, and only 21% of marketers say that they're actually using content and iterative testing and optimization to really improve their campaign's results. So if you flip that on its head, it actually means that 79% of marketers are not. So this is a huge missed opportunity for many, many teams. In this new world, though, where we have so much more information and AI at our fingertips, what if we could do more and really build insights into the flow of how we think about creating our content life cycles? What you see here is a new map for how you should be thinking about your content lifecycle, starting at the top with analyzing performance using AI, understanding what you are doing, and understanding what content you should be creating. Then creating the content, maybe assisted by AI, and putting it in market, letting it go free. And then this is where the magic happens. You can either split that content into two different directions, maybe getting intelligent insights on how you create better audiences and expand your total addressable market to a new audience. Or maybe it's around looking at how you better tailor that content to your existing audience, creating and testing new variants so that it lands even better, improving your click-through rates and your ROI. Now, every step of this process can include chances to collect more information, collect more insights that help you be smarter and more actionable about your data. This is what we mean when we say evidence-based creativity, bringing in data from all sorts of different sources, but then blending it with human creativity so that as you are creating content, you're always having insights that are leading the way. Now, what if you could bring insights into the flow of your everyday work? Well, now you can. I am delighted to announce Contentful Analytics, our new agentic analytics that put conversational analytics right at your fingertips so that you can ask questions of your insights and get responses grounded in your unique business data. In our conversational interface, you'll have the ability to ask any question you want and then receive insights, performance metrics, and even optimization suggestions so that you always have a data analyst sitting right next to you, understanding your performance in real time and helping you adapt. Now, the best part of Contentful Analytics is it's built within the flow of your existing work in Contentful. And that means it natively integrates with Contentful Personalization, which we launched earlier this year. So as a reminder, Contentful Personalization gives you all of the rich audience segmentation, variant creation, as well as AI-powered audience suggestions that help you find new audiences. But it also includes rich experimentation features, and it's only getting better. With new feature experimentation, you can extend all of your capabilities to not just test information and content, layouts, designs within Contentful, but also to third-party content outside of Contentful. So think about how you optimize your e-commerce workflows, your product detail pages, maybe different navigation layouts. All of this is possible with Contentful so that every one of your experiences performs as best as it can. And not only that, it includes A/B testing and smart traffic allocation to test all of the content, the buttons, the headlines, so that every piece of your content performs as well as possible and automatically reroutes it to the best audience. So this is amazing, and this is amazing innovation, right? I'd love to take you through it in a demo, and I'm going to bring on my colleague Taylor to show us more. Taylor, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor Wagner. I'm on the product marketing team here at Contentful, and I'm super excited to show you all today how Contentful Analytics is making it easier than ever for marketers to better understand both their content and their customers so that they can create experiences that truly resonate with all of their audiences. So say I'm a campaigns manager at Coin, and I've got an upcoming webinar to announce a new product. You see my webinar registration page right here. Looks great, right? But we all know that success is about way more than just creating a good-looking page. It's about continuously optimizing this page so that I can understand what resonates with different audiences and adjust accordingly so that I can drive more conversions. Where I typically like to start is in Contentful Analytics, where I can track my traffic, engagement, and performance data across all of my content. And up top, front and center, the custom metrics that I've set up for myself for the things that I care most about show me my webinar landing page traffic and the conversion rate to this page. I see here that I'm trending a little downward over the past week or so. So let's figure out what's going on here. I'm no data analyst by any stretch of the imagination, but fortunately, with our analytics agent, I don't have to be. Instead, I can simply have a conversation with my data. So let's start by asking the agent to show me the traffic to my webinar landing page, but broken down by my traffic sources. As soon as I ask that question, the analytics agent gets to work, digging through all this data for me and presenting an accurate answer in natural language. And when it does, I see that LinkedIn and Facebook are my top traffic sources to this page. Not really a surprise to me because I'm actually running campaigns on both these channels right now to try to drum up some registrations for my registration or for my webinar. I can also see the other traffic sources to this page as well. They're a little bit lower here, not as high as LinkedIn and Facebook. I have a feeling these lower ones probably aren't impacting my conversion rate nearly as much as my paid ads. So I think it's probably smart to dig in to this campaign a little bit, see how it's performing. So I will ask a follow-up question to the agent to show me the conversion rate of this webinar landing page, but break it down across LinkedIn and Facebook. By simply asking a follow-up question, I'm able to dig one layer deeper into my data. I'm able to continue this conversation with my agent. And when I do, there's a pretty drastic difference here between the performance of Facebook and LinkedIn. Facebook is performing roughly how I would expect it to so far. LinkedIn, on the other hand, is not really performing and not really converting as well as Facebook. So here's my first aha light bulb moment, right? LinkedIn is underperforming, but I still don't know why. So I need to keep investigating this. So this is an opportunity to ask another follow-up question. The thing is, with LinkedIn, I'm running my paid ads at a few different industry-specific audiences. So there's my opportunity to continue the conversation and break it down. I'll ask the agent to show me this conversion rate for LinkedIn, but break it down across the different industries. Again, without changing tools or changing context or even leaving this conversation, I'm able to get my answer. And when I do, well, here it is. I see that the finance industry is the segment that's dragging my number down, a pretty low conversion rate, especially when you compare it to how retail, CPG, and manufacturing are performing on my page as well. Something I need to look into. Fortunately, the agent has also recognized this anomaly and has suggested a way for me to be able to fix this by serving up some more industry-specific messaging and value propositions for this finance audience. Makes a lot of sense. So I think I probably have a good path forward on how to remedy this situation. So if we take a step back in just a few minutes, I was able to uncover a new content performance issue I didn't know about, and I determined what the root cause was. This is the crux of evidence-based creativity, because with the data and the help of my agent suggestion, I now have a good idea of what to do next. I could simply chalk this up to a learning to apply to a future situation, or because it's so quick and easy, I could just solve for this right now. So what I'll do is I'll dive into contentful personalization and create a new experiment to actually test out this audience-specific messaging. So I will give my experiment a name, and I will give it a description that fully explains the purpose of this experiment. And I will tell the system to track the performance of this experiment based on how it's affecting my webinar conversion rate. And just to simply optimize for performance even more, I will have Contentful intelligently distribute traffic to the version of the content in this experiment that's performing better in real time. So I'll set the distribution to multi-armed bandit, or what we sometimes like to call it is smart traffic allocation. And lastly, we know we want to target the finance industry with this. So I'm going to go ahead and set them up, that audience, as the target for this experiment. Done. The structure of this experiment has now been set up. Now we can have a little bit more fun and get into what this experiment is actually going to show this audience. So with Contentful, the beautiful thing here is I don't need to create a duplicate page or different full assets of this to test out and experiment with, because Contentful allows me to measure and test as granularly as the components on the pages themselves. Same page, automatically swapping out the building blocks on the page. And in this case, the component that I want to test out is the event description for the product launch webinar. So with that set as the baseline, and I know I want to test this against some industry-specific verbiage, I could either go off and write this all myself real quick, hopefully get it right, or what I can do is simply click generate. When I do this, Contentful is going to automatically reference the audience data, the description of my experiment, as well as the original copy in the baseline component to come up with the perfect variant that specifically speaks to the finance industry. Let's go ahead and check out what it created. Here in the description, you can see that Contentful has taken my original copy and customized it for banking, insurance, asset management, fintech, speaking the language of the audience that I want to target with this customized messaging, broken down with more nuanced messaging and value props. I like how this reads, but before we push it live, we should probably see how it looks, right? So in live preview, here's my original page that I showed you up front, complete with the original copy that's going to show to everyone that visits my landing page. But in the personalization preview, I'm able to see what this is going to look like in real time for my finance audience. By simply toggling my variant on in real time, you see my more industry-specific messaging loaded up there on the left side. This looks good to me. It's formatted well. I want to go ahead and push this live right now. So, like any good experiment, you got to give it some time to run, though, right? You got to let it have some time to gather the data to figure out which version of this content is going to perform best with this audience. So for the sake of this demo, I went ahead and set this experiment up a few days ago to allow it to really gather enough data to be statistically significant. And I can view all that data back in the experiment itself. On the Insights tab, I see here the variant that I just created, variant 1, generated with AI, is winning. In fact, it's actually crushing the performance of the baseline content and has boosted my conversion rate up to 7.2%. That's an astounding uplift thanks to the optimization that we did through the data we found in analytics. Now that I know this, that seemingly my underperforming audience has been course corrected, I'm kind of curious to see how this has affected my overall conversion rate on the webinar landing page. Well, back on my analytics dashboard, everything's kind of looking green here. And I see that in my custom metric, my webinar conversion rate is actually up nearly 35% since the beginning of this experiment. So I was able to find, in just a few minutes, an idea, test it, and validate its impact. All the while, I actually learned something a little new about one of my audiences that's going to make me more successful and a better marketer in the future. So it's clear that with Contentful analytics and personalization, it's easier than ever to measure, test, and optimize your content and experiences, all without needing extra tools or any special skill set. And with that, I'll give it back to Kem to bring us home.
Thank you, Taylor. So I think you just saw evidence-based creativity in action. You saw Taylor take analytics, really look at the data, ask questions of it in that really cool conversational interface, get insights, and then take action on it, creating a new personalized variant, putting it in market and testing it, and then reallocating traffic to the winning audience and to the winning variant to the right audience. This is a great way to take any of your content, any experience, and make sure that it is performing at the levels that it needs to be to help you not only sustain your customer base, but grow your business. So as you think about putting evidence-based creativity into action, how should you think about it? Well, when at the beginning, you should always think about how do you understand your audience interests or content gaps so that you can create better segmentation and capitalize on trends. In the middle, think about quickly iterating on your content, message testing, messaging tweaks, so that you can better personalize every piece of content out there. And then always throughout, always test, always experiment and continue to find ways to improve the personalization of everything that you do so that you drive higher conversions and ROI. Now, we've just talked about how you improve the connection with our customers. How do you improve your connection with customers at the top of the funnel? I'm delighted to bring out my friend and colleague, Tim Corden, our head of web experience, to tell us more. So Tim, over to you.
Thank you, Ken. Hi, everyone. My name is Tim Corden, and I head up web marketing here at Contentful. I've been working in digital marketing for the last 18 years. In fact, I think I started when I was 12. Working on the agency side originally with Google, the BBC, and PepsiCo. And then over the last 10 years, I've been building in-house digital marketing teams focusing on growth and innovation. But like you, during my career, I've seen a lot of technological change that has really affected our profession. And if you'd like to take a walk with me down memory lane, I'd like to relive some of these amazing moments. We've had the big SEO algorithm updates. We've seen the rise of social media. We've seen mobile marketing in all its different forms, programmatic advertising, big data, and also hyper-personalization. As a digital leader, it's been imperative that I understand how these technologies impact the way in which our customers find our brand. But at the center of this, web has always been and will continue to be the growth engine for the business. But everything you've heard today and that you're hearing around this conference around AI and GEO, it feels pretty big. And in fact, it's going pretty fast, which I'm also sure an old person would say. This seems to be the most significant real-time seismic shift, both on the technology side and the behavioral side that I've seen in my career in marketing. To paraphrase Rand Fishkin, the hype around AI is massive and it's real. 20% of Americans now say that they are heavy users of AI tools on a daily basis. And if you think about the most famous example, ChatGPT, that is now the fastest growing app in history. Currently, around 700 million weekly active users. This is huge. So today I want to spend a bit of time talking about what's happening, why it matters, and what you can do to succeed to win. So think back to the middle of last year. Around this time, we had just come to the realization of GEO, Generative Engine Optimization, and we were only just accepting it across the industry. Fast forward to today, and now 68% of marketers are adapting their strategy to embrace the AI shift. But the one way that you know this is serious is the first and most important thing for all marketers, acronyms. We now have so many more. We've gone from SEO to GEO to AEO to AIO, and it's starting to sound like a bit of a nursery rhyme. But the reason I want to make this point is that you're going to be hearing lots of different terms in this industry. Generative Engine Optimization is the term of reference that Contentful is using, but if you're using Answer Engine Optimization at this point in time, it's fine. Maybe it will be crystallized down the line, but we can use them interchangeably for now. But moving away from the acronyms and the nursery rhymes, it's time to get serious. We've got to talk about the top of the funnel. The old way was simple. A user would go to Google, put in their search query, get 10 blue links, and click down to your website. That was your organic traffic. That was the top of the funnel. But with LLMs, things have changed. What happens now is you type in a question, it can often be chained, and you get answers directly there in that space. The user doesn't need to go to your website. This is pretty significant. SparkToro and Datos estimate that 60% of searches on Google are now zero-click. 60%. I personally think that's pretty remarkable. But not just the stat itself, but of the implications. Think about it. Your customers are discovering, researching, and assessing outside of your well-crafted digital experience, and instead, in the AI environment by an AI engine that has synthesized information from different sources. We'll take it one step further. Cloudflare estimate that it's now 750 times harder to get traffic from ChatGPT to your website than it is from Google. So this makes it super important for us to understand where do we show up, where do our competitors show up, and what is influencing AI as to how and where we show up ourselves. Bottom line, what has changed is we now need to optimize for humans and for AI. That sounds all doom and gloom, but I can assure you it's not. Yes, we'll see a drop in organic traffic, and in fact, on Contentful.com, we've seen the same thing. Since the start of the year, and in particular the last quarter, we have seen our organic traffic drop. But when we look closer, we also see that our LLM traffic has increased. As we start to look into the conversion and deeper funnel metrics, we find something interesting. The traffic itself is actually engaging and converting better. Well, why is that? That's because these visitors have already done their research, they've already asked their questions, and have decided to come and check out our website. This is exceptionally important. I have to say, I'm pretty blessed. I've got an awesome web marketing team and SEO team, underpinned by a great platform with Contentful. We've had the opportunity to look at this for the last 12 months, and also, together with our Contentful partners, put together our playbook on GEO. How you win reaching both humans and AI. I don't have time to jump into all of the detail, but I would like to spend a little bit of time summarizing into 3 areas. The first, make your content AI ready. Next, establish topical authority. And third, earn brand credibility and trust. All of this underpinned by SEO best practice and a test, learn, adapt mindset. So if you're ready, let's jump in. First, you need to make your content AI ready. The good news is that if you're practicing good SEO, then you're already well on your way to GEO success. Many of the principles still apply. So let's use natural language and clear and structured formatting to ensure that AI processes content easily and presents your answer in human language. Make sure you continue to use alt text for your images, transcripts for your videos, and metadata for all of your assets across your web experience to ensure that AI interprets, contextualizes, and trusts your content. But where we do need to evolve and shift is the content strategy itself. We've been focusing on top of funnel content, but now we need to move down the funnel to maybe the middle or some of the bottom funnel areas. An example would be use cases with before and after proof. It's price and cost comparisons, and it's also competitor alternatives. These are the areas that we need to start to create for. But once you've got your content in market, it's not a one and done thing. You need to make sure you're testing, you're seeing where you show up, where you don't, you're learning from that, and you're adapting your approach so that you can win. Now, if your content isn't contentful, then you've already got an edge. Content is naturally structured, so that means it's easy to add schema and metadata at scale across all of your content types and without reinventing the wheel with every page. The result? You have content that is consumed by people and optimized for AI. So next, what do? We need to establish topical authority. This is about being real. Focus on content that solves real problems for your customers and make sure that you inject expertise and your unique point of view. This will ensure that you bring your content further down the funnel. The shift here, we mentioned our bottom of the funnel content. We do need to ensure that for our bread and butter terms, we're still present. The shift here is ensuring that you bring your creativeness and your unique opinion and perspective to stand out from the sea of sameness. Again, you need to test content once it's in market. Have you been cited? If not, maybe you need more original data. Maybe you need a sharper or more differentiated opinion. The point is you need to keep on test, learning, and adapting as you go. Contentful helps you scale authority. So what do I mean about that? Well, earlier you heard Alex speak about Contentful's AI actions, automations, and workflows. You can use these in your content process to blend automation for efficiency with human input for expertise. That means you can produce content at scale, but still inject your original ideas, commentary, and creativity that make your brand unique and establish true authority. And now to the third pillar, earning brand credibility and trust. AI is great at summarizing the generic, but what it's really looking for is trusted foundational sources. And so it's up to you and up to us to consistently deliver high quality content around the questions that people are asking. A great thing to do is to source these ideas from community forums like Reddit, as we've been doing. The conversation is happening right there. So we need to lean in, we need to respond with answers to ensure that we can position our brand for those citations. The next thing is GEO is a team sport. PR and thought leadership are going to be crucial to winning in this game. Mentions in publications will drive citations and they'll drive you in answers. What's really cool is that you can ask your AI where it's sourcing its information, and that will give you your own playbook of where you need to show up. And finally, cross-channel consistency is absolutely key. You need to make sure that you have the same message on your product pages, on your blogs, PR, and socials. And because cross-channel content is centrally managed in Contentful, you reduce duplication and ensure consistency. That's been critical for SEO, and it's even more important in the GEO era. So I want to share a few stats with you that I'm particularly proud about. My team have been implementing this playbook with Contentful at its foundation, and I'm really proud of these results. Since the start of this year, we've seen a 460% increase in our citations in Google's AI overviews. And in the last quarter alone, we've seen 88% increase in our traffic from LLMs. This is a great start, and we are only going to do more. It's been great to collaborate closely with our partners to understand and learn more and iterate on our playbook, test, learn, and adapt as we go. So today, I've touched on these key pillars at a very top level, but of course, there's a lot more to cover. So if you're interested, then scan the QR code or go to contentful.com/GEO. There you'll find a collection of knowledge. We've got webinars, blog posts, a 5-part video series, and a GEO checklist, and a lot more. And of course, things are going to evolve. And as they do, we'll continue to update these resources to ensure that you have the insights and the edge to succeed. So thank you for listening. And to bring it home, I'll pass over to Karthik.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim. And thank you to all of our speakers, especially our guest speaker, Leah Wilson-Depp from Zoom Info. It was a pleasure having you here. I just really love her story. It's such a great example of how you can remove so much of the day-to-day marketing toil through AI automations if you have an underlying platform like Contentful. So thank you again, Leah. Before we move on with the rest of our programming, I want to recap a few of the things that you've heard in this session today. The first, we announced a number of new capabilities around AI automations that are deeply embedded within your existing workflows. Like Leah from Zoom Info, you too can automate much of the marketing toil that occupies so much of your marketing team's time. Liberate them and focus on the creative aspects of marketing that truly differentiate your brands. The second, we've announced a number of new capabilities around content analytics. I like to call these deeply embedded capabilities, powered by natural language and built for a full-stack marketer. And lastly, you heard from our very own Tim Corden about the importance of structured content to driving an effective GEO strategy. Please reach out to any of us if you're interested in learning more about any of these new capabilities. We have an exciting conversation coming up next in our programming with a fantastic guest speaker. To introduce her, I'd like to invite up on stage our very own amazing Chief Marketing Officer, Elizabeth Maxson.
Everybody, I'm Elizabeth Maxson, the CMO of Contentful, and I'm so excited to be here with Joy Howard, the CMO of Backmarket. And Backmarket, for those of you that don't know, is an online marketplace for refurbished devices. So think about your phones, your laptops. It's the ability to extend the product lifecycle while also saving on some e-waste. And with that, Joy has had an incredible background. Girl crush happening right now. She has been the CMO of major companies from Sonos, Lyft, as well as Patagonia. She has also been recognized by Forbes and Fast Company as well as Bloomberg for her innovation, always being very creative with her marketing. You are from Savannah, Georgia, but you live in Paris and you're here in London today. We are so lucky to have you. Thank you
so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Good. Well, let's just get started. I think in a lot of cases, most people think that the path to CMO is a natural one, maybe a linear path. We both know that's not true. So tell me more about your path and how you got to back market.
Well, I definitely never imagined myself growing up to be a CMO, which of course I have. I'm grown up now. I started out actually in the arts. So I was a musician in the 90s. I was sort of swept up in that sort of major label indie gold rush, after Nirvana, when everybody thought they could sign an indie band and make a lot of money.
But you did, you got signed, right?
I did get signed, yeah, I did, which was very, very fun. I got signed by a British label, in fact, Too Pure, which was an amazing label. And I guess around the year 2000, the bottom fell out of the music industry, so recorded revenues from music, or revenues from recorded music fell by half between 2000 and 2010. So I was very prescient and went back to business school in 2000. And I got an early MBA in sustainable enterprise and went to work for Johnson & Johnson. Was completely ineffective because I really actually knew nothing about business. Like an MBA was basically like reading instructions for a board game for 2 years without ever having played it, And yeah, so when I got to J&J, I realized I really wasn't going to have the impact I wanted because all the marketers made decisions there. And that's why I went into marketing, is because I wanted to have leverage for a positive impact on the world. And that's where that was happening. And so I became a brand manager, a junior brand manager. And I had a great mentor at the time who ran Johnson's Baby Worldwide. He's like, there's no shortcuts. You just have to, pay your dues and climb up the ladder, which is what I did.
That's amazing. I'd love, with your background, it seems every single stop in your journey has also been driving cultural change. So how have you been using marketing as a way to really drive that cultural impact?
It's interesting. So probably the first decade of my career, I wasn't really capable of doing that because I really do think it's a craft that I had to learn. And I had a very classic, like what the Brits would call FMCG or CPG training. And that kind of training, it's kind of like, maybe people call it mindshare marketing, but it's like, ooh, let me get into your head and understand your anxieties and, promise that I can solve your personal issue. And I learned a lot from doing that. But I discovered a new way of working that situates brands more in the context of culture and also situates people in the context of culture and understands how brands help people with their identity projects, right? Because we're always creating ourselves in the world, and brands are a tool for that. And I think once I discovered, okay, interesting, brands operate in a historical field, in a social field, people are historical actors, then it became really interesting and exciting for me. And that's when I started working with culture more actively and using brands to shape culture and understanding how culture shapes brands.
So one example with back market is obviously downgrade is the new upgrade. Do you have another example of where you've been driving that cultural change?
At back market?
Or in one of your previous roles?
I think I've done it everywhere, where I've been. I think my first real breakthrough, the first time I learned to do cultural marketing was actually at Converse, which was a division, it still is a division of Nike. And, Nike has this thing that they say internally, which is you got to live the brand. Mm-hmm. And it was really interesting because Nike and Converse were completely different brands, and you could literally, you would go to the Converse campus, go to the Nike campus, it's like you were on a different planet because Converse was really punk rock, which is how I got the job, and Nike was like very athletic, And so my first chance to really do it myself, because my whole time at Converse, I had a super creative CMO who really never let me do anything cool. Like my job, I used to say it could fit on a Post-it note, was like, what Jeff doesn't want to do. Like that was my job description, But I learned so much from him. And so I think my first big breakthrough was really Patagonia and understanding what was special about that brand that mattered to people today. And so the big realization that we had there was that what people loved about Patagonia was the founder. And what they loved about Yvonne was this idea of self-actualizing through work, okay? Mm-hmm. This idea that you could really express yourself in your work, and you could do that in a way that allowed you to really be your fullest self. It's a dream that everyone has. It's why everybody loves Steve Jobs, And so before that, they weren't really using him that much in the storytelling, and I think that was like a big breakthrough, is to realize, okay, look, what people love about this company is the way that we let people become themselves at the company. So we had a strategy that we called front staging the company brand, which is basically just take everything that was backstage and put it in the front stage, and it was like wildfire.
Well, one of the things that you already used multiple times is the people. And one thing with Contentful, and something I firmly believe in, is this idea of B2H, which is business to human, and really connecting to all consumers on a human level. You've done this very well. I'd love to understand what's the playbook look like? You know, what's some creative campaigns and how do you activate them to really resonate on that individual level?
Well, it's always easier to tell it in the context of examples, okay? And so I think the first thing is you have to have a very specific understanding of a brand. And so my best way of thinking about a brand is that it's the culture of your product, okay? It's like not only the internal culture around the product, but actually how people use the product in the world, how they make sense of the product. And so what I always start with is that, okay? How are people using this product today? What does it mean to them, you know, and who are they? And so the research I like to do, I like to do depth ethnographies where you really situate people in their context and understand, okay, how do they come to this product? What do they understand about us? What do we mean to them? You know, so I think a good example would be Sonos, actually, which was, and we're going to talk about technology later, so maybe that's a good one, but, you know, Sonos was like very stuck in this early adopter demographic. And we used to joke that the customers were, we called them Wistimals, which stood for, it's a very catchy acronym.
I can't wait to hear this one.
It stood for wealthy, settled, male, techie music lovers, okay? And they could never cross the chasm because imagine I'm a Wistimal, okay? And you come over to my house and I'm like, babe, this is incredible. This stereo I have is incredible. And the whole time you're just thinking like, you're crazy. I'm not like you. You're really into technology. You're obsessed with music. So they couldn't really cross the chasm. So what we had to understand was like, how are people using this product? And then what we discovered is that when people talked about the product and filling their home with music, they talked about how the entire atmosphere of the home changed, you know, and how they connected with each other more intensively. And of course, we did research on this, which is, you know, found that, you know, kids were more willing to help with chores. People told each other they loved each other more. All the things that happen when you fill your life with music. And that was really the catalyst to say, okay, we're all living these lives like bordering on burnout, okay? And what we really want is for our home to be this place of creativity, you know, filled with flowers, where we love each other and we connect with each other. We're not just nagging each other to, you know, do the chores or did you pay the bills or whatever. And that was the story that we just spun out over and over again. And I think people could really see that dream of themselves in the storytelling around the brand.
I mean, my family listens to music 24/7 in our house, but now I feel like I need to amplify that to really get my kids back in order.
Yeah,
But
get your kids into it.
It's a huge part of our life, so I definitely resonate with that. Well, you led here. Let's talk about technology. You've had the front row seat of many huge technology disruptions over the years. Which one would you say is the most advanced and the one that really has changed our lives the most?
The shift to mobile. I think it's, you know, I think a lot, especially living in Europe, about how we redesigned our entire societies around cars at one point. Now even cars are being designed around devices. You know, our entire lives are shaped around these devices, the way we think, the way we interact with each other. And so I feel really lucky that, well, I feel fortunate and misfortunate to have lived through that and seen the change that has wrought in marketing and in communicating with each other and with people as potential customers. So for sure, that's the biggest shift by far.
Well, and I think that's something we can all resonate with. I'm sure everyone online and in the room here probably has a phone right next to them. So that was definitely a huge shift. So now let's compare it to AI. Is it as big as this AI disruption? How do you feel about the AI wave?
I mean, I think we'll see, okay? And which I know is not a popular thing to say, but I'm I feel very fortunate to be part of a very cohesive leadership team at my company that are taking very principled stance to it. And we're not trying to be innovators. We're not trying to be early adopters. We're going to be very proud early majority here to see what is really making a difference. Obviously, we're experimenting all the time. And there are some places within the business where it's so clear it's having an immediate transformative application, for example, in customer care, you know, and that's exciting to me because customer care is very expensive. It's very, very important. If something happens with your device, it's life critical, really, in many instances. And so, you know, I'm very excited about what it's doing there. I have a lot of hopes and dreams for this technology, and I have a lot of fears about it. And I think it's the thing that makes it so different, actually, is the cultural and social discourse around it, you know, because when we move to, and I'm just going to deliberately use a dumb phrase like pay-per-click marketing, you know, before it got rebranded as growth, in between being performance. You know, it's like, oh, pay-per-click, that's performance. No, it's growth, you know. Before that, you know, you just couldn't really understand like what the potential of it was. And so I think the thing is like, let's really wait and see where it goes. But I think it's natural to have hopes for it.
Yeah.
And to articulate what those are. But I guess what I would say about, you know, performance marketing is that it was a long time before we realized how that was actually transforming society, right? We're in the UK, so it was probably Cambridge Analytica was the first moment where we thought, whoa, hang on, how did Brexit happen, you know? But now, this tool that we're using every day, there's such a fraught discourse around it in society. You know, it's going to eliminate all of our jobs. You know, it's destroying critical thinking. You know, it's driving children to suicide. So I think one of the things that we need to do is imagine a more positive alternative future that's created by AI. We can start in our jobs right now and make that happen, you know, because we shape technology. It shapes us, but we can't forget that we shape it.
Yep.
So I think our mindset around how we use it, what we want it to do for us, I think we need to be vocal and very assertive about that.
So I want to dig into that a little bit more because I feel like right now, especially with marketing teams, you have all these AI tools. They're being, you know, labeled as your next creative partner, which could be a brilliant collaborator or an overzealous intern. You know, like you never know what you want to get. And I'd love to understand where in your team, you know, in your creative process, for example, where have you drawn the line where your team does feel comfortable experimenting and using AI, and where do you feel strongly the human needs to stay in the loop?
Okay, so there's a lot of drudgery in marketing, but I think a lot of B2B SaaS products are not very user-friendly, okay? And there's a steep learning curve to learn how to use them. And so I think that taking that drudgery out of marketing is the number one thing. And I'm not saying that because I disdain execution in any way, okay? Because, you know, that's saying like execution is the only strategy the customer ever sees, but it's more because we want to free people up to do more meaningful work with their time. So this is where I feel like AI could do a lot more. And there's like very tedious things, okay, that people are doing in marketing teams, like converting, you know, file formats, resizing images, you know, going on a shoot and realizing like, oh, you just shot it in this aspect ratio, but now you need the plates. And so that's what we used to call them as plates, right? You would shoot on either side. And now you can just make all of that with AI. You know, that's fantastic. Like, let's get rid of all that. And then the other thing is localization. So we operate in 18 different countries. We have a lot of different languages. And I think that it's a great tool for us in that respect, right? Because you can do things with it that you never imagined. But there's really not anything that goes out from us that a human hasn't read and seen, okay? And it makes me very happy to see that my team actually is always going to be capable of doing things that I really don't think machines will be able to do. So a big part of our brand is, and it's always been this way, established on tone of voice. It's very clever, you know? And humor and that kind of like, you know, that really fantastic touch where people just feel like, oh, that's so funny, like you get me, you know? I just don't think machines can do that yet. So, you know, I'm sure everyone who works in marketing has had a product manager or an engineer be like, look, I recreated our whole ad campaign. You know, it's like, this is terrible. You know, what you think is great is like, why you do your job and I do mine. And like, please don't waste any more time because we're all competing over engineers. So stop trying to make ad campaigns, you know, like that kind of thing. I definitely draw the line at that and say, okay, I just don't think this is a wise use of your time because that is not a very good ad.
Well, I think you bring up a good point in that AI doesn't have lived experiences, right?
Yes.
And that's what you can really gravitate towards is creating those lived experiences and really connecting back to the human. But let's talk about your team. So we talk a lot about there's a lot of new skills that you need to have in this AI world, what it means to be a full stack marketer or marketing multiplier. So how are you thinking about future hiring? What are some soft skills or things that you're looking for, maybe a different mindset shift to really make your team, I would say, future fit?
Well, humility is a big one, okay? Because I think you can shape the way you interact with these tools and the way they interact with you, but one of the things that they do to keep you using them, especially if you're using a chat interface, is like, oh, you're so smart, you know, that's such a great point. It's like, actually, maybe not, you know, it may not be. And I'll give an example that's so well-intentioned, okay? You know, two more junior folks on the team. We drive a lot of earned media. It's a big part of my own personal playbook, and we can talk more about that later. But we hadn't been doing a good job tracking it, you know? So I asked the analytics team, okay, guys, like, we're 10xing the impact of our marketing, and this is a big part of it that we're not measuring so everyone can understand. And so, it was clear that the analysts had gone to ask, ChatGPT, okay, how do I do it? And had come back with this like very thoughtful project plan, okay, that was like, it was, in the old days we used to do this thing called crawl, walk, run. Okay, it was like, I would say it was kind of speed walking, okay, the plan that he put in front of me. And he asked the intern, okay, what do you think of it? And so the intern's like, okay, the analyst is waiting to move forward on this, but he had also put it into ChatGPT. And so then ChatGPT had said, okay, well, that's a really good start, but you can measure sentiment and you can do, just, of course you can measure sentiment, but like, and then, equivalent, it's just a million KPIs, a level of detail that you would never get to in any kind of useful way. I was like, look, guys, I just want trended data, okay? I just want like raw impressions, trended data going back 2 years. That's it. Are we moving it up or are we moving it down? That's all we need. Let's start with that. So I think when I saw the response of like, oh, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this, I was like, whoa, okay, we don't even have the data in one place. So let's just stop for a minute and think about what is it useful to see and how do we start? So I would say both of them, and the other thing is critical thinking. So curiosity, humility, critical thinking. Where is ChatGPT getting this information? It's from white papers, from consultants who are selling their services. Most of what you're getting is on the on the free side of the paywall.
Sure.
So you got to think about the source. And imagine if someone had like digested 20 consulting white papers of like consultants trying to sell you something. It's like, oh, keep it away from me. Like, let's just simplify it. Let's try to see the forest for the trees, and move on.
Well, that's thinking about more of your team. Now I want to zoom out. You mentioned CMO playbook. I think the CMO right now role is super complex, especially keeping up with all this different AI technology. So how do you see our own roles evolving in this next year and beyond? Or what are some playbook best practices that you're going to take with you regardless of where you're at?
Well, I think everybody's role evolves based on the company context. And the company lives within an industry and obviously technological changes. So I think it's very dependent on where your company's at and what it needs, and then also your own skill sets. And I think this is where the kind of humanity of the CMO needs to come in. Each of us has a thing that we're good at. We each have things that we're bad at. We look at what the company needs, what the world needs, and we leverage the things that we're really good at. And so I would say, that's never going to fail as a CMO playbook if that's what you're doing. And then the last thing that I think doesn't get talked about enough in the marketing context is really understanding the unique skill sets of the teams that you inherit. Most of us are coming in. And I think you build a playbook based on your own capabilities, based on the tools that are available, because the tools are just there to serve us, okay? And if you get it the other way around, it's always a road to nowhere. And what are the inherently incredible differentiating capabilities of your team? So that's kind of really what I start with. It's just that kind of situational analysis and like, what do we have to work with here? And it's always very, very specific to the task at hand. It's hard to generalize. Maybe that's not satisfying for you, but you can tell me.
No, I think it is. No, I do think it's a good point, especially, you're right, a lot of times CMOs come in and you are inheriting a team and you really need to start with that skill set and what is that point of view you are bringing in and your own skill set. I always say there's plenty of areas where I'm not the master of every single marketing function, so you hire people that are smarter that can help do that. So I think that's really important with all teams and including using AI.
I mean, I do think what you need in this world is changing, and it's almost impossible, to talk about being an e-commerce marketplace without getting into geo and what it means. And I think that it's going to require specific skills that maybe have atrophied in the last 10 years because of the last tech stack that we used. So I'm happy to talk about that a little bit more too, if you want.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about, earlier I was asking you, what's a marketing trend that you're super excited about? And you instantly said GEO. So what are your thoughts on that? And maybe what are some strategies you're thinking about? Or is there things foundational to how you operate with SEO that transition? Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
So first of all, SEO is important and it's going to continue to be important. I had hoped that there would be more radical action in the Google antitrust suit, and there was not. Okay, it's a very mild correction that they got. So I don't really see that changing. And I see, and I think this is very important as a marketer. You have to understand people and you have to observe how people interact with the tools and you have to use them yourself, okay? So where is the information coming from, I think is what you have to always keep asking yourself. And so in a world of geo, what I observe is that SEO still matters, okay? Because if you have a high authority on Google, then you're probably going to have high authority in the LLM. The second thing is that reputable news outlets still really matter. And if I had to say, okay, what are the two, data sources outside of Google itself that I see LLMs using? It's basically the press, okay, traditional.
I've been joking that PR is now making a comeback.
It's making a big comeback. The press and reviews.
Yes.
And so what I love about that is that, okay, so then what should you be working on? Telling great stories and providing great customer experiences. So I like the way that it kind of like brings out the best of us rather than like, gaming a lot of KPIs or, noodling away on metrics that are just so easily manipulated. And I guess that's probably the last thing I will say is that about this topic, you're welcome to ask me anything else, but just always be wary of metrics, that you don't understand and that make people sound smart, that might be a little bit intimidating. You have to always, we recently did this exercise within my team of the 5 whys. Why is that? And why is that? And why is that? And, ask yourself that. That's a very good way to spark critical thinking. And, I'm just optimistic that we'll lose a lot of that kind of like trees for the forest behavior and get back to more big picture thinking.
Well, I love you bringing up data. It's something we talk a lot about at Contentful as well, is really focusing on evidence-based creativity and bringing, the left side and your right side of your brain together to really deliver on that. So I guess, do you have any parting words for marketers out there and how they can really be surviving this AI era, what they should be doing?
I mean, I'll just build on the last thing you said, which I think is so critical, and that is the left and the right side of your brain. You have to keep both of them alive. The best marketers can operate fluidly in both worlds, and that's what I'm always looking for, when I'm hiring. And so, we each have a disposition. You can usually see it like, what did you study as an undergrad? Did you study math or economics? Did you study literature? That's going to kind of like set your path in some ways, but if you studied math, it doesn't mean you can't be very creative. And if you studied literature, it doesn't mean you can't really understand strategic finance, for example. So I think that is what makes marketing so fun and so fulfilling and so rewarding, is always, balancing the art and the science at the very detailed level, but also at the macro level. What's happening macroeconomically? How is it shaping how people think about themselves? Because at the end of the day, you are helping people become. And they are choosing your brand and your product because of who they want to become. And so understanding people's, identity projects, who you want to be, who I want to be, how we help each other do that is the essence of it all.
I love, you just brought it all together with a bow on top. I love it. This has been so insightful. I love your energy. Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you to everyone that has tuned in online. I hope that you're leaving today feeling energized and inspired and really excited to unlock your own potential as a full stack marketer. So with that, thank you, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.